Okay, again, now this one's kind of weird. I actually disagree. But earlier in the game, the Lancastrians destroyed the Duke of York in a battle and killed him. and since then, the game has largely been a jockeying for positioning in terms of getting influence in cities and whatnot, building up bases of support. But the Lancastrians moved down from their base in the north and managed to push Earl of Warwick, and I think Rutland's an Earl too. Yeah, quite might be a duke, but anyway, managed to push him and Rutland into a battle. The controversial thing is they played an Arts of War card that got Rutland off the map, off the battle, made him abandon Warwick. Would it have been a close battle otherwise? No, I think the Lancastrians had a fairly significant edge. But the Yorkists had a lot of cards in their favor and a lot of stuff that went well for them. And of course, the Lancastrians had a card that they would have played to change things up a little bit, knock one of the lords out temporarily anyway. But why is it controversial? Well, because Rutland is an heir. If I had beaten Rutland, I could have knocked him out of the battle. And then I've taken two of the Yorkist possible kings for later scenarios out and would make it easier and easier to be able to win the overall campaign. That was my mistake. I probably shouldn't have done it, but in retrospect, but I didn't know that I was going to win the battle as easily as I did. However, Warwick had escape ships and a route to get him out. The battle was here at Salisbury. And so he's now in exile. So even though all the lords are gone, which is normally a death knell in Levian campaign, since he's got an exile marker, and this seems completely counterintuitive to me, he's able to pop back up much more quickly. I'm waiting anxiously to hear why, because I've been harping on this a little bit, why lords are able to go into exile so easily, and it doesn't end the war, right? Like, it feels like to me, it feels like exile is a worse thing than disbanding. And I don't understand. It feels like disbanding, hey, you've still got your properties and whatnot, presumably, and you can still pull your troops together in them. Of course, you're able to pop up in areas that are within enemy control, or enemy favor, because they're not dispossessing you of your castles and whatnot. There's no siege mechanism. There's no territorial control that's real and absolute in this game. In the rest of the series, there is. and I understand the reasons for that. It feels a little odd that you can pop up so easily, but you have a delay. You have to gather your troops and everything. You go into exile, and someone's just handing you an army. Okay, it matters who you are, but are you really convincing me that the Earl of Warwick, I don't know where he even goes, right? Let's check his, without a reasonable claim on the throne. This is the first scenario. Let's see what we got here. Would be able to go to Burgundy and have an army ready within a couple of months, within a month, whatever. It's as fast as he could raise up an army in England, but ready to invade and able to contest things immediately. I find that really, really unlikely. And hey, he's got another one of them ship cards. After he does that and gets beaten again, he's going to be able to go back to Burgundy and have another army ready to invade. Wow, that feels extreme to me. And it just feels to me like what exile might represent is actually some cases that should actually have you out for the war. you know, not quite death, but situations like where Henry was captured, put in the tower for a while, and then let out later. You know, I don't know. Anyway, we will keep playing by the rules and awaiting any kind of discussion on this, because I'm really curious about the decision of why exile is almost like a ping pong ball, you know. Sure, it only works for the really, really influential lords. They're the only ones who can keep you in the game this way. But there's a fair number of them. Henry, Somerset, Warwick, York. 4 of the lords in this particular scenario are able, 2 on each side, to basically go into exile and immediately continue the war. Sure, this might not be trivial, but they're even allowed a levy phase, so they can even build ships and land immediately, right? Like, they don't even have to spend an extra season gathering up resources to do the landing. They're able to even muster, which is something that you wouldn't be able to do if you were in England itself. Being in exile is actually advantageous because you get a muster, and you get to show up on the board without another lord having to pull you in, which is, of course, why you don't lose the game immediately. Anyway, I got our answer on the exile question. They have a whole list of the length of exiles, and they're actually fairly short. Maybe not quite as short as we're seeing for Warwick coming back here, which he will, but close enough. However, I'm just not feeling the same kind of exile as the designer is talking about. You know, he's talking about like Richard of York going to Ireland and collecting troops. Yeah, it's not exactly exile, right? It's not like, so how does exile happen in this game? It happens when you're engaged or about to engage and decide, yeah, that's it. No, I'm not sticking around. Not going to fight the battle. I'm dissolving my force, whatever. And then fleeing away. Now, I don't know. It feels like the kind of thing that would end a campaign. However, I'm also afraid that I'm trying his nerves, so I will stop asking directly, because just putting it on the video seems to work better. Okay. Anyway, it's time to draw some cards. Yeah, I thought it was friendlier to send an email asking, but I really don't think it worked well. Okay, so our rebellion, we get to draw. Blocked ford. Approach to prevent exile, yep. See, now again, the card. It's a blocked ford. It prevents exile. It's somebody who's about to be killed in a battle. You know, it's somebody whose forces aren't sufficient, and he manages to slip away and escape rather than actually commit to the fight. Again, Richard of York. This levy Yorkist influence ratings +1 for parley. That may help, because over from Burgundy, I'm allowed to parley across the sea. And then over on this side, Parliament truce, hold, prohibit all approach and intercept. Yeah, we'll hold on to that. That's useful. Yorkists may not sail. That's an important hitch in Warwick's world. By the way, for Warwick, it's kind of cool because he starts out with boats, so it's not that big a deal that he's in exile. Anyone else is going to have a harder time. They have to muster up the boats and everything. Okay. Anyway. We come to pay, right? Unless first levy troops, each lord must pay 1 coin per 6 troops. Luckily, Henry's got enough to fund the world. Okay. Lords can disband and then have to pay points. So this is an interesting question. Do I want to keep lords around? There's a gain lord's influence in the next turn. I think I want to keep these two big fivers out there. Even though, whatever. In addition, 7 cards for the turn, so I may actually want to get another lord. Maybe not. Maybe throw a pass in there just to avoid having to pay too much. But yeah, we'll pay our 2 influence points. There's nothing over here. Vassals. There are vassals face up, Shrewsbury and Westmoreland. Now, I can grab them. Is that a wise idea? Shrewsbury comes from over here. He is on my side. Westmoreland's up here. He is on my side. They would both be available. Not going to be sailing across. You know what? Odd I'm going to disband them, even I'm not. I'm a little iffy about disbanding something, giving up something that I have. But I could win by IP if we could delay Warwick long enough. I'm not going to disband them. I'm going to spend my 2 influence to push them another turn forward as the calendar gets more cluttered. Okay. Exiles and vassals. We are going to now return the exiled lord, no check, no cost, into an exile box, and we checked where it's going to be. It's over here. I don't think I need the exile marker anymore, because that is an exile box. It just costs more to maintain him. I'll set him up, and the cool thing is he actually gets a full muster in play. To say that not only does he come in with all his shit, but he comes in faster, essentially, than he would have had he just disbanded because he didn't really want to fight anymore. And you can make arguments one way or another, but it kind of feels like losing the war, and that's really how I see what happened there. That was a climactic battle. Somehow Warwick got away at the end of it. He slipped away. That's great. Again, he probably shouldn't be showing up this turn, and the designer agrees with that. It probably should be the next turn, but it really does seem too fast in a lot of ways. Whether I know, the schedules of how long they were away, the difference of it's essentially no time has passed, right? That battle happened, and now he's back and ready and fully mustered, and all his coin and everything ready. The only thing that's stopping him is the French fleet. I have a lordship of 3. I'll check my Arts of War card, see if there's anything I want, but the fact that I can't do anything in England directly this turn, I can't sail, leads me to think about, I can parlay, think about parlaying against coastal stuff. Sure, I could try to, open things up here. But I'm just not going to have a lot of cards for the turn. And Edward, Earl of March is available. He's going to get the jump on things and be able to move first. So I think I want to bring him into play. So now that I'm off board, I bring in the actual heir. Feels a little funny, but okay. This is going to make an influence check, right? Yeah. Luckily, I have a 5. And so I get him. That'll give me 2 lordship left to spend on cards. Looking through, and I'm thinking about taking great ships just because I'm probably going to want them. But I don't think there's anything else I terribly want. Notably, I can't take the Southerners. I can take them with March, but only the royal heirs. Only the royals. Only the Yorkist royals, not pretenders like Warwick, get to. Or very ambitious people who would take the throne if it was lying around. Yeah, like anyone. But I notice this England is my home. When going into exile, this lord instead disbands to the next calendar box. That's useful for most of the lords. The very, very high influence ones would rather go into exile. It's better for them. But just read that however you like. And I don't know what else to take. I start off with my ships. I'll take an influence action. Try to grab Ravenspur because at least it's not exhausted. An interesting thought. This great ships, I'm down to one. This great ships, lordships count double for sail and supply and connect all ports of all seas. Instead of Ravenspur, or whatever I want to take, I might want to go further north or something for one reason or another. And actually taking something in the north might be actually more valuable because of the influence, putting a check on the influence gains. But if I look at this, connect all ports of all seas, hey, can I grab Harlech this way? Well, I look at the parley rule under muster, and let's see, for ships, another stronghold that is connected by a route, including the lord's locale and parley target that is free. If the lord has at least one ship, the route may include an exile box holding that lord and any ports on the same sea as if adjacent by a single way. I think even though I could sail there and supply as though it's just one, I can't influence across that way. So I think I'm going to do an influence up in Newcastle, although that's going to cost me some points. It does take away the northern dominance points, so it's probably worth it across the board. So 1 point for influence, 1 point for the way, and I'm successful. So Newcastle falls. That is a city, which gets me the most valuable of the point sections. And I guess that's it. What was up with this? No, my influence was +1. Just for the levy. We'll throw that out now. Over to the other side. Cards of interest. The first one I want to do, I'm not taking because it doesn't actually help. This lord's supply and levy troops do not deplete the stronghold at his or her vassal seats. Oh, I thought it was at his seat or his vassal seats, but no, it's only at vassals. But I can only play it on Henry. He has no vassals, so it won't help there. What is interesting, though, is Margaret. Each Tides of War, this lord at the stronghold outside London or in an exile box gets +2 Lancastrian influence. That sounds like a pretty good play. That'll drop me to 1 lordship point. And I got 2 for Somerset. I may well want to bring Exeter in or Northumberland. They both have 2 command points. And again, there's 7 cards this round. Next round's an influence round. I can walk around with Somerset with me, but I can gain control of some stuff down here. And the Yorkists aren't going to be on the board, so this seems like a time to start building up that engine again. Is which I want. So that dominance up here that I just lost is worth 2. But the northern territories are not in great shape in terms of, like, he's already exhausted, these are depleted, whereas Exeter is completely fine and can come in without a problem. But I am losing 2 influence per turn by not getting Newcastle. But there isn't a hell of a lot else that he would be able to do from up there. So, got kind of a mixed view there. If I brought Percy in, though, I could eventually bring the Northerners in, which means I only need like 3 of these to do it. So I don't even have to take that, but again, I still have the exhaustion, which is unappealing in certain ways. So I think I'm going to roll for Exeter. Now, who's going to do it is the question. What else do I want to do? Do I have any vassals on the board? I would get one if I bring Exeter in. Otherwise, Lincoln I left uncontrolled for some reason. What's exhausted? I don't know. I'm assuming Derby, because I couldn't have pulled anything from Lincoln. Again, the board is a little crowded. So if I take Exeter, I think I move north to engage March. And that puts me in a position where maybe March is going up, and then I can bring Northumberland in to deal with him and pull somebody off or whatever. You know, there's like a tag team action going on down here. And then Exeter can move through these. So I'm going to use a point of Somerset, and that costs me 1 influence point to try to bring Exeter in. And I get him, I'll set him up, but that's going to bring Exeter into my hands, which is another city, I hope. It looks bigger than this. This is really iffy. Do I want to bring a vassal in? I saved a point with Henry to do that because I kind of want to have vassals on both my lords. But honestly, I'm not going to fight a battle this round, so why bother? So I think the best thing I can actually do, unless there was a card I could play, well, I could try to bring Percy in too, yeah, is to, I'll bring him in next turn maybe, is to try and get myself more cards, I guess. I don't really need them, and wastage is also coming up, but I can't figure out what I want to do. For Somerset, man. I could levy some troops. He's only got 4 troops. Do I have to levy the whole thing? The city's a longbowman and a militia. It would exhaust it, though, and I don't know that I want to do that. Which to me means what? I wish there was something else I could levy. I could levy a ship. That could be useful. Why don't we get a ship? 1 ship is good, it won't get halved. Maybe should have done one with Henry too. Yeah, I don't know. All right. And kind of want a decent amount of carts for hauling stuff. Good enough. That'll put me to the campaign phase. And we're going to pause as usual. I know that, in other games I didn't want to pause between the levy and campaign. I don't feel like this one is really hurting me to do so, because I don't feel like levy is actually determining what I'm going to do in the turn as much as it does in the others. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why. It probably has something to do with the lack of territorial control. By the way, I looked at some people's claims historically, and in the first period of warfare, there was a real attempt to create territorial integrity, whereas later in the wars, they became a lot more diffuse, I guess. I don't know. For whatever that matters, the game system stays the same throughout. Maybe it's a matter of territoriality is just not a valid option and you try for it because you're a wargamer or something. I don't know. I think I screwed something major up. I just got a response from the designer to a different question, and it's ugly. Okay, so here's what it is, and Yeah, I see why it happened, and I don't know if I made a mistake or not. The Henry VI scenario has a capture of the king rule. If the Yorkists win a battle against Henry VI, they add +10 influence. Instead of checking for Henry's death, you disband him. He goes in the map. Okay, this is the historical event of Henry being captured. But you don't play 1A in the War of the Roses. You play Plantagenets go to war 1, right? Lancaster's. You play 1, which I also don't think I'm doing, because Margaret's not here. So this is really fucked up. What happened here? So this says, play the first levy through the last campaign, box 15, using the War of the Roses, starting on 26, and the special rules, including those in place of those listed for 1A. So Lancastrian heirs present for this war are Henry VI, Margaret, and Somerset. Okay, Margaret is not in the setup, right? Where was setup listed? Oh, God, I think I fucked something major up. Lancastrian succession. Lancastrian heirs present for this war are Henry VI, Margaret, Edward, Somerset, and Somerset II only. Removal of Henry VI or Somerset and muster of Margaret during play. How do I muster Margaret? Removal of Henry VI, 4.43, 4.82. Let's go find these. Are they the scenario rules? No. Let's see. 4.43. See, how did Henry end up off the board? He wasn't defeated. He just got disbanded. Okay. So I didn't fuck anything up. But the key here is, if Henry is defeated in a battle in 1A, he becomes captured. That does not happen under set 1. Removal of Henry VI adds Margaret to the next calendar box. Yeah, Margaret's not available at the beginning of the game. Somewhere it tells me to set up as per 1A Henry VI. But removal of Henry VI. So if he dies in battle, he can't be captured in this scenario. So the historical can't actually happen, sort of. Adds Margaret to the next calendar box, removes the Arts of War boxes and replaces them with some others. Muster of Margaret assigns a capability, some other stuff happens. Removal of Somerset also hasn't happened, has special rules that apply to it. I forgot about all this, but the key point here is, yeah, I came up here because I was worried, oh shit, Henry was off the board. Is that was that because he lost a battle? No, it's not. I forgot that. But yeah, should he have gone into capture? But there is no capture rule here, which I kind of don't like. Historically, how does this work? If the Yorkists win a battle at 10, instead of checking for Henry's death, disband him. I kind of like this. This may be I don't know. I don't know what it is. and a Yorkist will hold him, and then he could be released if that Yorkist just killed. I don't know. I'm not really making a lot of sense in my own head right now. It's not that I'm sick. I don't think. I don't know. I am probably still a little bit, but things aren't making a lot of sense to me. But it does seem strange to me that the capture of the king, a historical event that happened during this period, doesn't seem to play over into here. And yeah, I'm playing this. The threshold is stuck at 40. It's not being reduced. It's really a shame because I like that other card, right? I like the capture rules. Now, does that bring Margaret in? If that Lord... That does not bring Margaret in, though. I don't understand. All right, anyway. I'm not sure why these two scenarios are so different in terms of their starting points and whatnot. I do understand why the victory check doesn't move. That's to, well, ensure that the campaign goes further, that it doesn't become just a short little game. But the capture of the king thing feels like it really should be incorporated. But then again, Margaret's actions in that first war should also be a thing over in 1A. So I feel like between the two of them, they have everything, but they're split between them. I don't know. I don't want to think anymore. So one thing that I forgot about taxation, which is of some importance actually, is you don't have to be at the locale to do taxation, or whatever it actually is. You just need a route there. And you don't need wagons or anything. So you can tax something just if you have a path back to it, which absolutely I should not have taxed London while I was there, right? That had slipped my mind completely. All right, so here it is Friday, trying to squeeze a turn in before I have to raid and then go dancing. If I do, I had a bad Charlie horse. You know, when I wake up, almost invariably now, it's with like this yell of horror as I realize reality exists. Anyway. Warwick is in exile. What can he do from exile? Not a hell of a lot. He can raise troops. He could supply using his ships. He's prevented from sailing, but he can supply. He could forage, I guess. I'm not sure if you're allowed to forage. I've got to... Because I'm not sure it's a locale. The exile boxes. If you have to pillage, you disband. Locales include exile boxes. So, if that's the case, they should be listed here for results of pillage, not of pillage, but of well, forage. Yeah, I think there's no value I can take directly from that. I can do supplies using my boats, which is fine. Because I have plenty of supply that way. I could tax using my boats because I have a POW. I can find my way to Calais. Boats are becoming very powerful. But I can't move out this turn, which means there's a fairly limited number of things I want to do with Warwick. There are 7 cards this turn, and the only other lord I have is the recently created March. So, oops. Now, this I knew about ahead of time, so I kind of fucked up by maybe not mustering 2 lords on the board. But I don't really want 3 lords at this point in total. You could demobilize Warwick, but then what? I no longer have York, and I have a bunch of shit other than Warwick. The initial idea was, hey, I'll start off with a pass, and then do a bunch of Warwick, and then do a bunch of March. But, you know, honestly, March is in danger. So he had better get on the March first. So I'm going to actually split it up this way and not really worry about it too much. And that way I can think about March's move more when I am actually affecting it rather than right now. I've made these bad choices. Or I've made these choices. We'll see how bad they are, honestly. There are a whole bunch of Lancastrian lords. Now, Exeter is on the board because I want to be able to use all 7 cards. This may be a mistake. I think I've gotten into trouble doing this before. Otherwise, I'm alternating between Somerset and Henry like I would normally in a Levian campaign game. At the very least, Somerset needs to grab supplies here. We got to move to Wells, convert that. Somerset can tax there. I'm kind of low on coin at this point, not terribly, but, and I can tax as I move on, so I don't have to get it exact. Then Henry, we're going to have to do some conversion because this is York, but then I do Henry to get me maybe to Bristol. I don't think I'm going to be able to charge quickly towards Edward, but I'm going to push towards him with this larger force. Put some threat on him. Worst comes to worst, maybe I bring Northumberland in next year to face him down, because Northumberland starts with a lot of troops too. And Exeter is really just here to use his cards. I put his card at the end for that element. All right, so March. Well, now that I know I can tax with a root, I may just want to move, but I need a route to do so. Convert, take a city away from them. I'm just playing kind of with less planning. Playing by ear. And Provender gets eaten. Come over here. Because my planning seems to screw me up, to be honest. Salisbury is mine. What do I want to do? I need to supply from Salisbury. And yeah, I was given a whole slew of pronunciation corrections. And oh boy, am I bad. First of all, Norfolk, which I always make fun of as Norfolk, or Norfolked, is indeed pronounced Norfolk. And I kind of knew that in the back of my head somewhere. What I saw spelled as Derby is actually pronounced Derby. I thought Derby was a different place. It's really, really troubling how differently the English decide to pronounce some of the spellings of their things than what I would be used to. Anyway, we just did 1 to get the provender. That will get me 2. I definitely need this provender, and I have room to do that again. And I will. I have a boat. It's not a great ship, though. Ships produce 2, right? No, it's 1 per ship. Okay. I keep getting confused. All right, that's him. Shift over, March. March has done what he needs to. Here, he's moved to Shrewsbury. He needs to convert. Did we convert something else? I don't think so. He needs to convert Shrewsbury. I forgot to move this, didn't I? No. No, that doesn't move. He needs to convert Shrewsbury, which is a city, back into his hands. That's one action. Second action, I have no food. I'm going to need food possibly on more of an emergency basis than anything else. So let's grab... Oh shit. I only have 1 fucking cart? Seriously? God. Let's tax. Because I can move and then provender. Alright. I say, as I start to operate without planning, because I do believe I actually will operate better without it. May not be possible all the time. Alright. We wanted to move our force as far as Wells. That'll create a feeding issue. I've got enough for them. And I will take Wells away. And lose my food. And you could say, you know, you're being sloppy, you're going to make mistakes maybe, but maybe not. Like reaching in to get that counter and then taking it off and everything all the time. I'm going to start making shortcuts there that'll be just as problematic, I suspect. We're here. We're in Shrewsbury, and see, here's our problem. This is our last card. We have 2 actions. We can move, but then we can't gather food. We could forage, you know. Or we can gather food, being able to muster next time. At least we're not pressed too hard. If we were pressed too hard, we might have to rebel or something. And then we can't move, but we can spend an influence and spend another influence to try to take one of those points away from Chester. That's not going to work. I spent 2 influence, didn't get anything. That's just, you know, good for Lancaster, right? Okay, Somerset, because we're going to not pronounce everything. And honestly, there are areas, there are accents that would do that, that would get rid of that middle. They're dialects, they're regional dialects that get rid of a lot more than standard English does, but in England. But they're like, that's what you're copying. You're copying these people you kind of, you know, the intelligentsia and whatever look down on. That's what you're closer to. Just think about that for a moment. All right. I do believe I need to convert Wells, because that is my capital. I need more provender, but I don't have an easy route to it right now. Bristol is a port, so once I get that under control, I think I'll be able to pull stuff in. So I think I'll be okay. So 1 was to convert Wells. I don't think I marked. I must have. Shit. Now I don't know if I marked this. Fuck. This is where I get screwed up, is where I do have to keep track of all the Picayune stuff. But you have to, because the constant counting is almost impossible. I'll leave it alone for now. Okay, so I did a convert, and now I want to do something else. I mean, I can do a supply here and grab 2 more supply right here. I guess that's what the plan is, to tell you the truth. But this is a tax location, so we can't afford to deplete it by taking supplies from it. It's a tax location, it's a city, so it gives me 2 coin. Did somebody only take 1 fucking coin for their taxation? Did March only take 1 coin? I think I screwed up. Yeah. March taxed... Oh no, he's at fucking Castle. Oh, how horrible. He has no tax base. How terrible. Okay. We're done. Unless we screwed up our numbers. Back to a pass. To Henry. We should have another Somerset in play. So now we march both. That's going to be my food. I'm just going to spend it right now, even though it's not the move feed point, because I need to spend my second action to take Bristol, which is another city, of course. And that's that. Come over here. And we're on Warwick's line of stuff. I don't know what I can do with him. You know, there are things I can do. I can tax Calais. Do I want to? I don't even know if I want to, because I've got plenty of coin and waste is coming closer and closer. So I don't think I want to. I think instead I will do a supply, and that gets me 2 per ship because I have the great ships. And I have 2 great ships, so that gets me 4 provender. I can't carry all this. But here's where it goes bad. I got 2 more cards that there's very little I can do with. I can do some influence. Parlaying. On to Somerset. Can't move my forces with Somerset. We're moving like a really slow freight train here. Actually, a lot slower than that. But our forces are moving really, really slowly because we have to convert areas. We have to grab our supplies and whatnot. At this point, Somerset, enough coin. Again, same kind of thinking as on the other side. Hey, both sides are beginning to think at the same time. But I'm going to supply my boat with my boats. Oh, that's a shitty choice. I don't have enough boats. What's up with that? Yeah, okay. So we will do a supply from the city. In fact, we will do 2 of them because we have plenty of cartage, but we don't have a lot of foodage. Let's back to Warwick. Warwick's going to start burning support points. Newcastle looks like a great choice. So I have to spend 1 to influence and 1 for the way, and make a roll. Newcastle's a city. That's 1. Boy, do I have a lot of lobbying that I can do here. Guess we'll go up to Bamberg. First of all, they have an advantage in those. And part of the advantage. So part of the issue here is I want to take away the north if he ends up with Percy in the northern card. I want to take away more of the north. It's already gone with this. So I don't know. I don't know how valuable it is. York is too far inland to worry about. I want to build up more coastal area down here. I don't think so. So I've got a second action. Do I really want to pay 2 influence to fiddle around with some of these points? The fortress one seems worth it. Oh, it's only 1 influence. I hope I didn't spend 2 for a +1. I'll go for Bamberg. And that is successful. That takes away the Lancastrian advantage there. That ends Warwick. He's got another damn card, though. He's not happy about this. And now we're to the mighty Exeter, who has only 1 coin. There's a grow phase coming up. It's definitely time to tax. Exeter is a city, so that will be 2 coin for him. Yes, he's going to have too much coin, and is going to lose some, I think. But he's probably for the best here. So that's one of his actions. What is his second action? He is not huge on provender, but what did I want to do? I don't have the Southerners anymore, so I will move to Dorchester. I only have 1 card. I can only carry 1 provender. And I've screwed up my order because the Yorkist card should have happened before the last of the Lancastrians. 3. I think I screwed up. I should have another card for these guys. And there's a Henry card kicking around here. That should have been first. Okay, let's do that. I actually would have done Henry before Exeter, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm really torn here. Warwick has... I mean, I can't levy any more coin. The only place I can get it from is Calais, and that would actually be counterproductive to me. So I don't want to. I have no use for any provender. I'm not allowed to sail. The only thing I'm allowed to do is parlay, and I'm really at the point where, yeah, the fortress is worth it. Okay, so I'll do 1 for the fortress. I'll do another if I fail. But this is getting way up there towards that victory check marker. I failed. We try again because what the hell? And we get it this time. Because we're right on the limit of the number of fortresses. For whatever reason, you know, having the majority is important, but having a preponderance doesn't really do you any good. So the Yorkists have a lot of the territory in their favor, even though the Lancastrians are doing fine otherwise. That puts me to the final Henry. Bristol's converted. Fed. So what do I do? Do I just move up? Well, we want to take some of these points away. That's what I do. Yeah, so I guess I want to keep my land connection here. So I'm going to just move to Gloucester. I'm going to feed beforehand, and I'm going to take it, which is another city, taking the cities away from the Yorkists because they have too much stuff right now. But all we're doing is kind of, Oh, shit. You didn't. Okay, I taxed with Exeter. I just don't want to do this. I taxed with Exeter. I don't want to tax with him. I need to convert that space. I need to convert Dorchester, which is a town. The reason is I can't be in a location that I'm not able to muster in. That's just too problematic. You don't want to park in a location. So if you have like a one use, a leader you're only using one card for, well, that's pretty shitty. Although his mustering is pretty bad. And you get kind of a free, although it costs you influence, muster attempt when you start an area. So instead of mustering, I can parlay, but it does cost influence to do it at that point. So I'd rather be gaining things without a cost of influence because we're getting awfully close to the victory check. If we were playing 1A, it would be even closer because for whatever reason, that scenario has different rules. It is turn 6 through 10, so this would be down at 35 at this point. So we'd be getting really dangerously close. This one has the constant victory check of 40, but it also still only goes 3 years, which means what? The closer and closer victory check might be hey, it's kind of unrealistic to say somebody actually won this particular war through influence when you're lowering the influence check. But what you end up having instead is maybe the position of this counter is what determines your victory at the end of the game, instead of that somebody reached an arbitrary limit. So if not lowering this 40 makes sense, not ending the game in 3 years makes sense as well. See what I mean? There may be a decision. I know a lot of the decisions were made on, sort of a design for effect type thing in my view, which is, well, the war did end in 3 years, so, and it ended because somebody launched a battle at a certain point. And why was that battle launched? Well, maybe it was because, in game terms, that may be expressed by the end of the calendar thing. I don't like that. My views on design for effect, the idea of let's make something work the way it did because that's the way it worked, which a lot of the arguments seem to be about that the designer puts forward with this, as opposed to this is what would have happened if this had happened, right? Like, he makes a statement that the game is very sandboxy, but actually, in a way, it's not, because you're prevented from taking certain kinds of options that weren't historically taken. It's sandboxy within the design for effect concept of, well, we're going to say the reason for certain rules is that this is how it happened historically. It's some kind of circular logic in my view. Anybody who touches arguments involving design for effect, I'm just like, yeah, you're not making an argument that's based on reality. You're making an argument that's based on a different means of scripting, honestly. Just a different way of scripting things. And one that... So scripting is a way to get around the constraints of reality. When you abstract away a system and you say, hey, this is how things work. And then you're like, whoa, something happened that is of vital importance to the situation being simulated. But my rules don't account for it or don't cause it to happen often enough. So you script them. That's the argument for scripting. Again, not really what I like, but the other side of it is, let's force elements of the rules that have nothing to do with simulation subsystems, right? Let's force elements of the rules like the end of the game here so that people will engage in a battle as they historically did, but without representing the historical reality that forced the issue. And that's kind of what the exile rules feel like to me in some ways, although obviously my understanding is too small if people were indeed bopping in and out. Like, I'm not representing the right thing there. It's just that the arguments are given from the historical in that case, where I think actually the design is fine. But when you're looking at something like this, I feel like it was entirely a design for effect thing. And it's like, yeah, well, why not the other design for effect choice of the victory check? Why did you choose one over the other? I don't know. You know, it's like, yeah, you just want the individual scenarios within the campaign to be longer for some reason? Because that's all it does. It stretches it out so that the point at which you have to make the decision to bring it to a climactic battle is later in the game for whatever reason. And I actually think that actually fails, like, whatever the impact was, whatever the lowering of the victory check was, that was probably put in place to help speed things up in a better design for effect. Either one is doing that, though. Anyway, where are we? We're about to change batteries so that we can get to the end of the campaign, going over tides of war and all that. I tried to do a recount, and everything feels all wrong, and I also definitely screwed up. So I'll do it again. Takes about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to do one. And I have no certainty. I think I felt safer with what I had before. But I don't know. Worst comes to worse, I could use little markers on each thing, but the board is so cluttered already that additional markers would not help me all that much. So it's like, I feel like what I have to do is just follow a path and gather all this stuff. And I thought I counted everything, and this looks very, very different. But I know I screwed up at the very end, like started to count. These are Yorkist. Oh, shit. I was going to say, started to count Lancastrian area as Yorkist, but no. These are Yorkist. All right. All over again, and it's a tedious and fucking annoying task. Anything where you're tracking this kind of information, I hate. It's something that I really despise, like in the coin games and whatnot. There's just usually so much counting you have to do, and there's tracks to help you with it, but those tracks invariably end up off alignment, which is fine for that game, because those tracks just really add up to a single victory point score. And so you can make a final check to make sure, hey, are they correct? And every now and then reset them as I'm doing here, but it's not that big a deal. But here it's impacting the points, the actual victory points, not the current victory points. It's not a count of victory points like in coin. It's an increase in victory points is based on where these 3 markers are. If I'm wrong, it's not just a matter of making some bad decisions or what turn out to be bad decisions because you weren't aware of what the victory point total is, but rather that you're actually impacting the amount of points that you have by the position of these, because each turn, these things hand over 4 points. Apparently my prior count was off, which probably means some of the IP totals are wrong. Like, I probably generated different values, but there's nothing I can do about it except count every turn. And worse than that, expect that my count is correct that I do every turn, which is not likely, right? I mean, it's just so likely to make a mistake. I'm as likely to make a mistake in counting as I am in tracking things. I think what happened was I got confused between villages and towns and cities. at some point or another and ended up expending one or the other, because there's a huge quantity of towns that are pro-York and a fairly larger number of cities that are pro-Lancaster, and I don't think this is where the numbers were when I was on the video. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can go back and look and see, hey, you got them right in the end, and I'll be like, ah. But I'm pretty sure they weren't exactly this. But maybe I got it wrong when I counted. Maybe. Who knows? You have to count that much shit, and that's what happens. Okay. Nobody has a lord anywhere except for March is in Wales. So that is 1 point for him. Domination. There is no domination in the north, south, or Wales anymore. Which means London's 2 points, Calais 2 points, and Harlech nobody has. Cities, 2 points, but towns and fortresses are each 1. Capability card. These I can just toss up. These I have to sort a little bit more. Just trying to get things into an order that I can grasp. Capability card. Margaret. Each tides of war, this lord at a stronghold outside London or in an exile box, okay, adds 2 Lancastrian influence points. There's nothing over here. And council member adds 1. We're getting a lot of ground here. This goes away. I got to decide if I'm throwing cards away. Let's just make sure. Pretty sure I got the end of things here. Oh, no, wait. No. All right. There's no specials this turn, so we're on the reset, which flips this back over. And I've got to figure out something or other. I don't know what. What is it? I got to do something. Something I forgot. Oh yeah, if I want to discard any Arts of War cards. So Friday here, I feel like it's well past time when I should pick up the pace of the video. You know, there's a point where I stop focusing so much on the mechanisms of play and more on the results of play. And I enjoy it more that way. I feel like you get a more coherent story that way as well. So I'm hoping to try to move that way. However, there is at least one thing that I want to focus on right now, which is the return of Warwick. We haven't had a return from exile before. So hopefully I will get a chance. My recent past wife used to harp on me about using that word the way I use it. Like it's not quite right. And she's right, but, well, was. She's no longer anything, I guess. But it just, you know, set me into the normal trigger mode. I'm actually up here playing to avoid, you know, like usual, to avoid any chance to think on things. It's still Friday, and a little earlier than I have to do my raid or get ready to go dancing, so whatever. But anyhow, I also do want to draw the cards. I was thinking, at least with the Lancastrians, hey, I'm pushing this point total so high. Next turn's, or this turn, is a gain Lord's influence. It might be a good turn to bring another big point bringer in of Northumberland. And then I can just dismiss him next turn if he doesn't serve purposes. That's one of the things. Like Exeter might be going away. I may just be bringing lords in to try to generate points. And that may be something the Yorkists have to do as well. All right, what do we get? Leeward battle line. Definitely useful. Did we fail to use this in the last battle? Didn't we have one of these? I don't know. Seem to think, no, it was in the first battle and we did use it. Each Yorkist lord may immediately conduct a tax action to receive twice the usual coin. Well, that's really valuable except we're almost at waste. So I don't know. Luckily it's a May, so I could deplete Calais. Because I'm in range, and I would get 4 coin for that? 6? 6, I think? But it doesn't do me a damn bit of good. Yeah, I would get 6 coin. What could I do with that coin? The only thing you can do with coin is pay your troops each turn. And I have enough to get me to the waste turn. So I pass on Warwick. March. I'm depleted at the only place I think I can tax. So yeah, screw that, man. All right. Henry pressures Parliament. Yorkists lose 1 influence point per vassal they currently have mustered. That is 0. And a leeward battle line. Excellent. All right. And on to the pay and all that. I'll tell you if anything exciting happened. Everyone was able to pay. Their troops, of course, lords, kept them on the board because this is a gain lord's influence. Definitely don't want to remove people at this point. And for vassals, I disbanded a vassal from Somerset because I don't want to pay the influence. I'm getting close to the win, you know? I didn't want to disband Shrewsbury, so I paid for him because I can't muster him again, although I probably would be able to soon. But also it gives me a fair amount of force under Somerset, just in case I do manage to track March down. If he like builds a lot of forces and comes at me, I'll still have a reasonable force between these two. And who knows, you know, maybe there's another Yorkist lord somewhere around who could show up or something. Something big could swing the nature of stuff. So I just want to keep some. And what's his name? Oh, fuck. Westmoreland. 1, I control the area, and 2, he comes back relatively quickly. He comes back in 3 turns. It's still not fast. Like, it's a hard choice to do that. No one's coming in out of exile, but a bunch of these vassals have shown back up on the map and are now available for muster again. But again, that's troops for influence. Right now, there's a worry that the game is an influence game, that Lancaster can end up winning by getting to the victory check. And what would that mean? I don't know. I guess it would mean Henry goes into exile or something along those lines, or goes crazy again. And now we're at the muster phase. I'll do that again off board. It definitely takes less time for me to explain it all. We're not backing away fully yet. For the Yorkist musters, and again, I don't know, I may have cheated, I may have forgotten to spend the point to roll the die. I don't know. That's a lot less bothersome, though, than things I have to track that generate points to me. Like if I fuck up and forget to spend a point. That's just, I forgot to spend a buck, you know, whatever. Okay. So what did Warwick do? He gathered a couple of carts and summoned Salisbury to give me York. Cheaper than influencing towns directly. Gets me points for the gain lord's influence. Might just disband him. My plan is to sail into Harlech and gather up with March and maybe force this into a major battle again. And we may have some advantages in doing this. March grabbed Southerners, which I've got that completed. Thought about like trying to bring Rutland into play. He's worth less than Salisbury, who I believe is Warwick's father. And then try to take London with that. But that would take too many actions. As it is, I only have 6 cards of actions, and I kind of want to use them on Warwick and March, I think. Not sure. Probably need to do a tax or something like that here. I've got room for 1 tax, but we'll see. I may just disband after 1 turn. Of course, he takes a long time to come back around. The high influence people come back quickly. Let's do the Lancastrians, and that's probably the end for tonight, because I don't know. I technically have time, but there's only so much I can play without taking a break, and if I take a break, I don't have time anymore. We had some bad luck over on the Lancastrian side, not terrible, but okay. So what did we have? Somerset failed once in trying to bring Northumberland into play, so he used both his actions to do so. Henry failed once in trying to bring someone into play. I thought it was Worcester, but that's not mine. I guess it would have been Oxford. Or no, it was Devon, which kind of doesn't make sense. I would have been better off going for Oxford. But either way, I rolled a 6, and it was on my second action after I played the automatic for Clifford, which, I don't know. The thing is, Clifford's free, so, but it uses up a card. And Exeter grabbed some carts. I didn't tell you about the carts there. It's not that big a deal. And that's going to put us into the campaign mode. And I think I'm going to try to figure out what I want to eat. It's hard to tell. Like, normally I have cheese and meat before I go dancing. But I had some for breakfast. Like, I'm low on normal food, like my normal sandwiches and stuff. Which kind of means that, what the hell was I thinking? I had some idea. Oh yeah, hot dogs. Yeah, I'm not really in the mood for that either. But I don't like the cheese and meat does things to my stomach if I eat too much of it. We are relatively late on Sunday. It was pretty early in the day. It's iffy now. I'm feeling really run down and have some sniffles. I'm not even sure I should be videoing, just because, again, I feel like my brain's not working right. But if I don't get some in, and we've recovered from a couple of disasters, right? Plus, there's 2 more wars to go. So biggies here. I have only 6 cards needed. We're bringing out lords for their economic value of gaining the lord's influence points, because we're worried we're kind of coming towards the end. But we're coming towards losing automatically. Excuse me. If the Yorkists can start turning the point value in their favor, they've gotten such a big boost off the victories that they've gotten. Difference is now, Warwick is able to actually land on the continent if he wishes. What else do we have down? We have March here, and we have Salisbury and York. I want to use all of them. Salisbury less than anything else, and my plan was to try to get Harlech and Wales and kind of convert some points in that direction. So we're going to aim for that. I do remember that one. I don't actually want to use Salisbury for taxing, because the waste turn is next turn. I have my coin on all lords to be able to pay them. I want to time it perfectly. For whatever reason, those loans get returned or whatever, even if the money's not being dumped in the Thames or it's not a big party, those loans get returned, and they aren't recyclable. This is the bad turn to collect taxes, so I may actually not even bother with Salisbury. That's what I've chosen. I'm doing a double march, Get him to Chester, he'll get provisions or whatever there. Actually, he's got to convert it. Oh, fuck. I can at least strip one away. But yeah, I want to move up here. Can I carry all my provisions? Yeah, easily. So I move up here, I do a convert or something. I take my second march, the entire card to get me to Harlech. Because that's one of the nasty paths. Then I bring Warwick in case I'm being pursued or whatever. Now I have my whole force together. That takes Warwick's entire card. March will use his card to convert Harlech. Maybe get some supplies or something. Because it's Grow turn coming up. And then I have double Warwick so that I can move into place down here. Or if I'm scared, in the other direction. But I'm not really afraid of bringing a battle into play. These lords are both on the board for a while. I don't know. We fought against this, maybe caused some casualties. I don't really recall too much. I can't really look and see everything he's done, so like the vassal that he has and whatnot. I guess I know that he's pawed a vassal out of the, a Clifford out of here. I can see that he's got a vassal here, so he's stronger than I am. So I kind of don't want to fight him. But if I have to, I have to. And I'm completely ignoring Salisbury. Now, while we would love to bring March into conflict, take him out of the game, taking heirs out permanently would be fantastic. We did that with Richard of York. Warwick, he might be my heir, so I'm a little less concerned about him, but we'll see. But taking March out would definitely limit the capabilities of the Yorkists. There are some things I need to do, though. First thing I looked at is Exeter needs a buck. So he's going to have to tax. He's not very good at much. So I'm going to make sure I play a card for him. I made it last because I'm not planning on doing much else with him. Otherwise, I'm running an engine of Somerset Henry, Somerset Henry, Henry. The reason there is I can grab supplies and stuff like that. Not putting a lot of thought in. I think we've learned our lesson that planning is more dangerous than not. He's been kind of loose on planning anyway all along, right? All right, it's time to flip over a card, but I need to do something about my nose and my pipe. Because for the whole day, it's like 4 p.m. now. I've been up for several hours. Several. I've been feeling a little lethargic. That's why I haven't been here playing. Found other things to do, ways to waste time, whatever. But more or less, as soon as I decided to move up here, the sniffles came. I'm like, I guess I'm a little sick or something. But, I think it's that I was a little bit more active. I wasn't just sitting in my chair or resting in bed all day, which is what I've been doing otherwise. Didn't really feel like I was sick. I just felt like, it's kind of, I'm tired from dancing. Yeah, Saturday I had to recuperate, but sometimes, it's taking me more and more. Anyway, well, let's flip one over. March's plan was to use his 2 actions, and these guys just have 2, yeah. He wanted to move up here. He wanted to convert. That takes a city away. And yeah, we're going way too much detail, aren't we? And then we feed. And we'll do that. Do I need to show all the actions? I don't know. Probably not. I'll come back. Because, you're used to the mechanisms that are in play. I feel like we're in a problematic situation. March completed his turn. He's out of Provender. All set up, though. Somerset did a couple of supply actions. I flip over the Henry card. But I look, and man, March is far away. If he's going to have to spend so much to move in Wales, maybe it makes more sense to me to start converting areas and getting that swing over. Because honestly, sure, this is a tempting prize, but an equally exciting thing is I can just delay this out. If I can keep my point advantage in place, there's no way that the Yorkists are going to win except by forcing me to battle. And then, yeah, I can just kind of avoid battle if I wish, and hold this at an even keel for when we hit here. That feels cheesy. Again, I feel like, enough times passed, the lords are just tired of fighting. Without this victory check coming down the way it does in the Henry VI scenario, without that victory check coming down, which is essentially the mirror of this scenario, it doesn't feel like I've got a conclusive victory. Like, the idea that the lords are getting tired matches well to the victory check coming down. With that not present in this, whatever this first scenario in the Grand Campaign is, without that happening, it feels really odd that the lords would simply say, yeah, we're just tired and we're going to throw in for whoever's got the most influence points at the end of the third year. Feels completely weird to me, but whatever. Anyway, I think I'm going to move about and try converting things. Things like Worcester are particularly interesting to me. Because why? Well, because it's got a vassal, and vassals are kind of a good deal. If I am forced into a situation where it looks like I'm going to have to fight, I can raise up a couple of vassals pretty quickly. Yes, of course, is, I can ride all the way up to Ludlow, great, and take that point away from them for fortresses by converting that over, which is particularly appealing, right? But I would also kind of like to gain other things like Worcester and whatnot. Fucking crowding. Which would be appealing, but I have to spend IP to do that, or move much, much more slowly than I really desire to do. And I think I'd rather make quick shifts and then convert a lot of stuff near me at IP costs as need be. The Yorkists gather here at Harlech, deplete Chester for supplies. Can't do that. Can't do that. Why is Chester not controlled by anyone? Fuck. I don't want to spend an influence to gain an influence. Chester's not really worth that much to me. So since I gathered supplies, I might as well gather them from here. I am facing a bit of a problem with the Yorkists now. First of all, yes, I'm trapped in territory that's hard to move from. Of course, Warwick can take me by boat anywhere in the world, so I could shift out of there. The fact that Ludlow's been taken means that I won't have Wales anymore. My plan had been, hey, let's conquer Wales and then maybe come back around for a fight. I don't think that makes sense. Having grabbed Harlech, which is an important point space, I probably want to shift my focus somewhere else. I don't know where. Maybe to gather the troops to fight some more. Although the problem with that is, if I gather way up here, I'm far away from his troops. I will have a harder time forcing him to the battle that counts, right? Does it really matter if Northumberland's taken out? I don't know, maybe, He's likely to be pro... I don't see a number on his card, which means there's only one. And he's likely to remain pro-York throughout. So, in fact, he will. So, taking him out and killing him might be a useful thing. Might not. Anyway, I'm left with a hard call where, dinkering around here, I'm going to be slower than the Lancastrians will be in terms of successfully converting areas. Actually feels like he has force superiority, so he puts himself in a position that threatens the Yorkists, and obviously gives them straight up the option to just approach and fight if they want to. It's like, yeah, come at it. And otherwise, I'm going to convert, well, it's not great, but I'm going to convert Shrewsbury maybe. But my next card is another Henry card. I've got enough provender, I could just go in and attack them at Harlech, which might settle the score all at once. Even if it weren't for the fact that there was an additional Yorkist in Salisbury, the simple fact that Warwick is a 5 influence leader means that I can go into exile and avoid battle at any time and keep the war going. Of course, that's not good. That pumps the influence points up again. It's not a great solution, and it's obviously not the choice I'm going to make. I flip over a Warwick card. I have another Warwick card, and I have to decide what I want to do. Do I want to fight the battle? What's my hand like? Losing another battle would really suck. I could play this to protect me. I don't have a whole hell of a lot of combat. Yet, if I don't force a battle and win one, I'm losing this IP war. I don't know which way to go. Odds we go for the battle. We have an escape route, but again, it's not good. We're going to go for the battle. What are we going to do in order to go for the battle? We can't do anything. We could raise troops. Make our situation uglier. Harlech comes with some nice forces. Men-at-arms and 2 longbowmen. That would increase our feed requirement. We wouldn't be able to attack right after that, though. But it would help defend us, and we have another card to do after that. So, I don't know. I honestly just don't know. For the troops, and we paid 2 influence, not 1. I paid only 1 to do it here. I don't know if that was on camera or not, but I made up for it by only paying 1 here, essentially. But yeah, I got to remember, it costs 1 influence to try to make an influence roll, 1 for the way. It's been a couple of days and my brain is kind of foggy. I'm leaving the option up to Henry. Do you want to fight the battle? I raised up those extra troops. He's sick of the delaying. He's going to do it, man. He's going to do it. He's going in. Going to move fought. And we set up another battle line. Is this the wisest move? No, it isn't. The wisest move is I've got the advantage on IP right now and can keep converting things, keep these points coming in my direction. Of course, there aren't a lot of towns around me, but I could have gone and gotten Lancaster. That would drop it a little bit. But the Yorkists have the advantage in towns. They have an advantage with Calais and Harlech. So they're going to be chipping away at my points if I'm not careful. So I kind of feel like, well, yeah, sure, they're locked into a place where they have to move more slowly, but we could do some interesting things. On the other hand, we could have shifted over and attacked York and gotten an easy victory there, which maybe would have been wiser. Is it? I don't know. Let's try that. Odd I switch focus and go for York instead. Now, I'm going to go for what I see as the win, which is knocking out their 2 major leaders. Yes, they've raised troops, but I've got a couple of vassals. I've got 3 vassals on the line. I think I've got the overall advantage, and I've got a handful of cards still, I think. So it's time to set up the things. Both sides played a leeward battle line, so I'm just going to discard those. They don't matter. But I got a ravine, and I got to choose which one I'm going to hit. Do I want to knock out March? Just keep him out of battle for what, the first round? And concentrate heavily on Warwick? Or do I want to focus on March, on keeping Warwick out, and beat the shit out of March. I think I want to beat the shit out of March first, which seems like a good idea. So I'm going to cancel Warwick out for the first round of the battle, and we'll flip him over like that. Which means I get a lot of control in terms of picking on March. On the battle, March is routed. The ravine is gone. I have an escape chip which I could use to bring Warwick out. That's not going to work for March. I don't have an easy way of saving both leaders. If I flee with Warwick, I reduce his death chance. But I think I'm going to stick around and fight it out and possibly lose the Earl of March here. I don't know, my chances are not good. See, here's the problem with my chances, is that longbowmen count as nothing. They'll just be losses that I take. In terms of hits that I'm going to do, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to be taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hits. I am going to get wiped out. So I think I do choose to flee instead. Do we have a card that prevents flight? The blocked Ford does not. So he is going to be fleeing and reducing his death. Let me just check what the penalties are for this, because this could lose me the game, conceivably, right? At the end of the battle, there's a influence points equal to the printed influence rating plus 1 per vassal. So I would be looking at 7 more points swinging over. 7 puts them up to 31. That's getting awfully close to there, but I just don't feel like I have a chance. So I think I'm going to flee and I'm going to save March. It doesn't end me the game yet, and I get another shot at a battle if I do this. Okay, well, this is not good. You know, obviously, you don't want to lose battles. But I didn't expect it was going to be this much of a blowout. That ravine was a big thing. Which means we go down to ending the battle. Influence, what did we say again? 7. There's no vassals here. So this goes up to 31. There are no spoils because we're in a Yorkist area. And we got a roll for his routed units. This, you could, I screwed up. His routed units I didn't have to roll for. I did, but I did do it. I had to roll for Somerset's routed units, which both died. But it brings an interesting point here. Let's say 2 lords face each other, okay? One wins the battle, but and they're the last 2 lords that each side has. Like, each side has 1 lord in the game. They go down for a climactic battle. One side wins the battle, wipes the other one out, whatever, doesn't matter. All his forces are destroyed. Is that possible? No. There's this weird, immediately disband any unrouted lord who loses all that lord's own troops. That's an impossible situation. But if that were possible, somehow, like if I'm playing this wrong and losing all your troops doesn't matter, if they did all fail their route check, you would be disbanded and unable to come back on the board right away. Whereas this guy might have played an escape ship to exile, which seems like a less significant thing. His entire force is destroyed. He's not even in the country anymore. But he ends up, God, I'm feeling ill. he ends up retreating into exile and available the next turn. He could win the game because the other guy was wiped out. You know, they're both essentially wiped out one way or another, right? But the other guy was wiped out and had to go into not exile on the calendar, even if they both have the same influence. The thing is, this rule can't happen, so that's fine. It's an error. It's an artifact that, at least the way I'm playing it, I'm ignoring it. It's something that needs to be addressed in the errata, though. Either that rule has to go, or something has to change, and the something that would change could cause this horrible situation. Okay. Where the hell am I? I'm on death checks. All right. I was going to say, I can save March because I still have Salisbury. I was going to save March so I don't lose this this fellow. Now he goes, I'm assuming, to Ireland. Let's check. And let's check the Plantagenet I scenario, not, oh God, I feel sick. Not the Henry scenario. Nope. March goes to Burgundy. Okay. But he's not actually there yet. So he will show up in 4 turns with an exile marker on him. Is this worth it? Yeah, it keeps him alive. And that's important because I am playing the whole campaign. If I wasn't playing the campaign, I would have fought the battle out and saved Warwick instead. But now we go back to here and we make a death check on Warwick. His is at -2. We really don't want him to die. But for later scenarios, he might be important to the Lancastrians, so I'm okay with him dying in a sense. He's more important for this scenario, but I can't win the game on this scenario. So he will die on a 5 or 6, I guess. Oops. Well, there goes Warwick. Okay. 2 cards. I didn't do anything with Salisbury, so it was another Warwick. Well, he's gone from the game, so I don't have to worry about him. March is not in play. Things are looking really bad for the Yorkists. And an extra card, I did my taxation and I grabbed a provender because, again, I don't want the extra coin. The extra coin hurts me, actually. Oh, I would have screwed up with those excess forces. I would have ended up rebelling. Well, he wouldn't know. He went for it, man. This is a pretty hefty hit, though. With Warwick gone, that's going to change some of the scenarios because a lot of them rely on Warwick as, you know, as the kingpin of the scenario, really. He's what sort of swings things in favor of the Lancastrians in the later scenarios. Of course, he probably would stay pro-York if the Lancastrians are in charge. So there's that, I guess. And let's finish up the turn with a little sequence here. So after addressing the tides of war, this is here, but I haven't done the Gainlord's influence. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3. 7 ends it. That's going to be an end. It feels like it should be a Lancastrian victory at this point. Warwick should have continued the fight, knowing that that was here. But hey, sometimes you forget shit. And he had no chance. He really had no chance. Had he continued the fight, I could have kept him alive, but I would, losing the game, I would still rather have kept March alive, right? So I think we got the same result we would have gotten. We just got there a little quicker with a little less bloodshed happening. So, this scenario is over with a victory for the Lancasters. Okay, the Lancastrians. which means we will be going to the Lancastrian legitimacy fades. I'm going to set that up on the next on the next video. This video is going to end with this victory. Presumably, Henry VI rules for a while, pisses off Warwick some more, I don't know. But the Yorkists come back and will attempt to press their claim again. Now, what did I learn? Well, I learned that when I'm sick, my head gets really fuzzy. So when I have a runny nose, it makes it really, really hard to play because I have to keep stopping and blowing my nose. When I have a cough, it makes it really hard to listen to the video. I know that, but sometimes I'm perfectly fine with a bad cough. But when I have this stuffed up stuff, my brain feels like cotton. I just really am not really very functional. And on top of that, I'm dripping all over the place through my nose, so I have to keep snorting, which probably isn't any more pleasant. Well, it's probably better than my cough in terms of listening to, but it's still not something you want to hear. But no, beyond that, within the game itself, it's very easy to fuck up in this one. It's very easy to fuck up in all of the Levian campaign games, though. But I'm finding myself desiring patterns more than strict planning. Part of the reason for that is there's a lot more flexibility of movement in this one than there is in any of the others, because you can walk through the fortresses and whatnot without any problem. And then it comes to a balance of kind of controlling this is honestly, I think, the key to the game. And that's why I say it's kind of an economic game. Sure, there are military actions that can give you big swings on the influence point monitor. But if you can get yourself in a position where you're generating more points on that every turn, you are going to get the win. Unless it's brought to an ugly military victory, which, well, in a sense, this was brought to a military victory because the Lancastrians had so many points in the bank that York had to take a chance on the fight. And honestly, it was the Lancastrians who went for the fight, right? They're the ones who moved in here. I said that wasn't the wisest thing because there's always some chance, you know, the opponent could have beefed up more than you think they could if you can't see their stuff. There's also die rolls and all kind of shit going on, cards you don't know about. So I should have probably tried to pocket the win, but I don't really believe in doing that kind of thing. And I think most players would have actually said, at this point in the game, you know, there's still a fair amount left to go before I get around. I would rather bring this to a conclusion. I think I've got the edge anyway. And it turned out to be a much bigger edge than I thought. The Arts of War card, that ravine, that was a big swing. Lancastrians may have still had the advantage anyway. What could have been done about this? Well, honestly, the only thing I would have done that was different is I would have fought out, at the end, is I would have fought out with Warwick. But what happened throughout the game? Well, the Yorkists gathered a lot of territory, to tell you the truth, but their overall point production wasn't very good. Holding on to things like the South or you know, these regional advantages, that's really tough to do. You can always supplement it with a card like the Southerners here or whatever, once you lose some of it so that you start getting some more. Meanwhile, the Lancastrians have a couple of cards that just gave them points, period, the end. I guess that's got something to do with their legitimacy situation. Also, Margaret was quite an astute political and military leader, to tell you the truth. Far outranked Henry, but probably as good as anybody on the side. And I'm kind of hoping to see her come into play in the next scenario. I don't know who we're going to see, though. because the Lancastrians are in charge. So yeah, we still have Henry, it looks like, but it looks like Margaret does show up, but she was available in this other one too as a replacement leader, which makes sense because historically she didn't come into play until Henry was captured. Anyway, yeah, did I learn some things? Yeah, I did. Uh-oh, it's time to swap batteries. I learned a few things, and that I think are the vital lessons that you can't play this game without, right? Like, without screwing up regularly. One is the supplies in this are more important than they are in Inferno. Maybe less important than they are in other games of the series, though, because you always have that, unless you're in an exhausted area, you always have that fallback where your army can be saved. But that could be terrible, because that can affect your influence in various areas in terms of their favor, and thus your victory points. And I gotta blow my nose. So yeah, the pillaging can impact you heavily. The coinage, look, you end up in this weird sort of, again, I learned the patterns, not the overall strategy. The patterns, keeping your supplies in good shape before you move, that's kind of standard Levian campaign stuff. But it's possible that you could put yourself in a position where you're pillaging enemy territory, and that may not be as big a deal. The other, because you feed in the middle, during an action card, right? So it's not that horrible if you end up depleting enemy territory and converting enemy territory more enemy, because it doesn't really shift. You might lose territories of your own. The other thing is the pattern of this waste. Be very, very careful. Don't expend efforts that you don't need to, because you're going to get all your resources back at the waste point, which is a very funny mechanism in my view. And I railed against it and whatever, mainly because of the coinage disappearing and because that pissed me off and everything. I do kind of understand some of the arguments in favor of how it's being done. I feel like if you misplay the game like I did, you can get results that are unbelievable. If you know the pattern and play it well, it's fine. It doesn't make much difference, right? Learning these patterns is really the important factor, and it seems to be the case in all the Levian campaigns. Just like when you look at a Stalingrad game or something like that, not a Stalingrad, the Stalingrad game, whatever it is over there. Just like when you look at those old Avalon Hill classics and you say, isn't it odd that I want to stack every other hex instead of every hex? Doesn't that feel weird? What's going on with that? There's mechanisms of the game that generate things that your soul just sort of rebels against when you first see them. And then eventually they're going to become standard. And again, after that first hit, I feel like in this next year, I felt kind of comfortable with the idea of what I have to do to make sure my coinage is okay. It took one hit. Just like it took screwing up, the coinage for the Yorks, for the Lancastrians, a couple of times. The first time to make me realize I have to get my taxes. Well, that's easier said than done in some cases, and you can end up in a position where you're going to be screwed just because you're having trouble finding the money. But you can do it over a path, and you don't need carts, so it's not that terrible, right? You want to stay near your base of support. If you run out too far away from your base of support, you may find yourself in difficulties. So it's a good lesson. Anyway, we're going to send this one up. we'll say we did a wrap on it, because in a way we kind of did. Each time we play this, each of the wars, I feel like we're going to have new things that we learn and that we bring to the situation. I kind of like the design of this just for my world, right? I always like a design that incorporates periods between engagements. So it's one of the things that I really loved about the concept, at least, of, Jesus, where is it? Grand Sequel here, where, you do a lot of economic stuff. There's a framework or a framing that sits around the various wars. In the main game, you're playing the framing. You really are. But then you dig into detail on the wars. And this doesn't give you that framing, but it stitches the scenarios together in a way that feels kind of nice. Something that, again, I wish I could figure out how to do that in Imperium Romanum. Actually, what I'd really like to do is build a framing around Imperium Romanum. A whole nother game that allows you to maybe kind of generate what happens. But the problem is there are no factions in that game. There are clear factions in this, so that this works a little bit better. Just like there are clear factions in the wars, in terms of the nations in Grand Sequel. You can take one and, you're playing a nation throughout. You're not really playing a philosophy or anything like that. There's nothing that really lends itself for Imperium Romanum. You could think about things. There was History of the Roman Empire. I thought that would work as a framing for Imperium Romanum, and it might actually. Something along those lines, where you're kind of setting up what the next conflict is going to be and going to the scenario to play it out. And you're really just, the framing in that case has nothing to do with any reality. What it has to do with is maybe some kind of mechanism to help you bid for who you are in any given scenario. But the important thing is, and that's going to be covered in this game and is covered in Grand Sequel, is this idea of what happened in the last scenario impacts what will happen in the next scenario, and that's the tricky part, because with Imperium Romanum, during times of peace and whatnot, you don't play Imperium Romanum, but Rome expands, or maybe is undergoing barbarian incursions that they're not really reacting to. So it's a tricky game. I feel like you have to build that framework anew in a lot of ways, and I never was willing to put the full effort into trying to figure it out. I wish I had, because it would be a cool thing to show. But the game itself isn't that much fun. So this one, I'm enjoying the mechanisms, how they play out so far. Yeah, I know. Some of you think, oh, geez, you hated it because, I get emotional about when I fuck up. That's all. All right, let's send this out.